The first thing I registered was the antiseptic smell and the dull throb in my arm. I was at St. Jude's Medical Center. I'd been in a coma. I fumbled for the plastic phone to call my husband. David, I could hear music, loud laughter. He was at a party. David, I whispered, my voice a dry rasp. I was in a crash. The brakes, they failed. There was a pause, not of fear, but annoyance. Hospital, are you serious? He barked. I am tired of your drama. I don't have time or money for a loser. You're on your own. The click, the dial tone, he was gone. I stared at the buzzing dial tone. The word loser echoed in the sterile room. I didn't cry. The tears I'd been shedding since I woke up just shut off. The grief and the panic were gone. They were burned away by something new. It was a cold, sharp, and terrifyingly clear rage. It wasn't loud. It was perfectly, deathly quiet. I was no longer a wife worried about her husband. I was a survivor. I knew I was alone. I knew I had to act. My hand was shaking. But I grabbed the hospital phone again. I didn't call another family member. I called the law firm, Hayes and Associates. A polite assistant answered, Hayes and Associates. How can I help you? My name is Jessica Miller. I said, my voice hoarse. I'm a client. My aunt was, her file was the Grayson Trust. Yes. Miss Miller, we were so sorry to hear about Mr. Grayson's passing. Your file is active. Of course, it's being managed by our top litigator, Miss Laura Price. I'll have her contact you immediately. Top litigator, Laura Price. I didn't know the name, but I had a lifeline. I hung up, my mind racing. I was in a hospital bed, but I had just taken the first step. Later that afternoon, a kind-faced nurse came in to check my vitals. She seemed hesitant. Ms. Miller, I have to report some unusual activity on the credit card you have on file. I frowned. What my purse was in the car. It must have been destroyed in the crash. She shook her head. Herr Expression Grimm. The billing department gets alerts for high-value purchases. An $8,000 charge at a Rolex dealer this morning. And $3,000 at Per Se last night as my blood. Ran cold. That's impossible. That's what we thought, she said softly. So I checked the security logs from 4 days ago, from when you were admitted. She took a deep breath. A man, David Raid, your husband, he came here while you were in a coma. He was here. He was here. She confirmed, her eyes full of pity. He didn't ask a single doctor about your condition. He told the new nurse on the floor he was collecting your personal belongings for safekeeping. She believed him. He stole your wallet. Jessica, he stole my wallet. The nurse's words hung in the air, but my mind was already somewhere else. It was like her words were a key unlocking a memory I hadn't been able to reach. It wasn't the crash itself. It was right before I was in my car, parked outside the lawyer's office. My hands shaking so hard I could barely dial. I was crying. But they were tears of joy. David, I'd shouted when he picked up. David, you won't believe it. My aunt, the Grayson Trust, she left it all to me. It's $35 million, David. We're rich. I'd expected him to scream, to laugh, but the line went quiet. A cold, calculating quiet. Where are you? He'd ask. His voice suddenly low, urgent. Come straight home. And Jessica, he'd said, his voice dropping, don't tell anyone. Not your sister, not your mother. No one. I'd promised, my heart pounding with love. I thought he was protecting us. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I remembered the highway I remembered pressing my foot to the brake, and I remembered the pedal going limp, sinking to the floor, the sickening, weightless feeling of having no control. He was the only one who knew about the money. He stole my wallet while I was in a coma. And the brakes, he tried to kill me. I said the words out loud to the empty room. The cold rage from before was now turning into a dark, icy terror. This was a monster I didn't know. There was one last thread of hope, one last person. I grabbed the phone, my fingers trembling, and dialed my sister, Michelle. She answered on the fourth ring, and I could hear the annoyance in her voice. What? Jessica, I'm in the middle of something. Michelle, please. I was crying now, the panic breaking through. I'm at St. Jude's. I was in a crash. The brakes failed. David, oh God. Michelle, David, he stole my wallet while I was in a coma. I think he tried to kill me. The line was silent, not a shocked silence, an impatient one. Tried to kill you, she snapped. Are you drunk? You are unbelievable. You always have to be the center of attention. No. Michelle, please, you have to listen. I don't have time for this. She cut me off. David is here. Jessica, he's in the backyard at my house with my husband, Stephen, right now. Stephen is finally helping David get funding for his new venture, and you call crying with this drama. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of me and Stephen, and now you're trying to ruin this for David. Jealous, Michelle. Get yourself together. And don't call here with these crazy stories again. She hung up on me. I placed the phone back on the hook, and that was the end. The terror, the panic, the last shred of hope, it all vanished. There was nothing left inside me but a cold, empty, echoing clarity. I finally understood. In my family, I was the scapegoat. I was the one who was too sensitive. I was the one who was too dramatic. I was the one they loaded all their own failures onto. My sister's deep-seated insecurity, my mother's bitter resentment, my husband's pathetic, crumbling ego. As long as I was the problem, they never had to look at themselves. I was not family. I was a function, and now that I was broken and worse, rich, I was a problem they needed to solve. I was completely, terrifyingly alone. And for the first time in my life, I was glad because I finally saw them all for who they really were. 2 days passed. The law firm had moved me to a new, secure room on a different floor. They told me guards were outside my door. They told me my lawyer, Laura Price, was coming to see me in person. I waited, coiled, ready for an ally. The door didn't open gently. It was thrown open, slamming against the wall. And he walked in. David, he was wearing a brand new suit, dark charcoal, impossibly expensive. His hair was freshly cut. He was smiling, not a warm smile, but a cold, sharp, victorious smirk. Well, look at that, he said, his voice booming in the small room. It's still alive, but he wasn't alone. He stepped aside, holding the door open like a gentleman, and a woman walked in. She was the most powerful-looking woman I had ever seen, tall, elegant, in a cream-colored designer suit that probably cost more than my entire year's salary. Her heels clicked with sharp authority on the linoleum floor. In one hand, she carried a sleek, black, expensive-looking briefcase. David, darling, she said, her voice smooth and bored. Can we please speed this up? I have a 3 o'clock reservation at Percy. My heart stopped. This was the trap. David beamed at her. then turned back to me, his entire face changing. The happy mask fell away, replaced by flat, cold contempt. Jessica, he said, and he put his arm around the woman's waist, pulling her close. I want you to meet Laura. She's my everything. My partner, my new fiancé, Laura. My blood ran cold. I stared at her. Laura, Price, David laughed. Oh, you've heard of her? Of course you have. She's the best. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a thick stack of folded legal papers. He didn't hand them to me. He threw them. They landed on my blanket. The sharp edge of the paper stinging my bruised arm. Sign them. He ordered. I looked down. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Divorce papers. I looked back up at the woman, at Laura. I don't understand. I stammered, Mr. Hayes, from the law firm. He said, you were coming. He said, you're supposed to be my lawyer. Laura Price actually barked a laugh. It was a short, sharp, mocking sound. Help you, she said, finally looking at me, her eyes sweeping over my hospital gown with utter disdain. Honey, look at you. You can't even help yourself. I'm David's lawyer. And his fiancée, she's going to fix this mess. David gloated, leaning in. She's going to prove to the court what I've been saying for years, that you're unstable. He tapped his temple, that this accident has left you mentally incompetent. You can't possibly be trusted to manage $35 million. Can you? The plan, that was the plan. You won't get away with this. I whispered, get away with it. David smiled. I already have. And do you know who our star witness is? The one who signed an affidavit swearing you've always been paranoid and jealous. He leaned in closer. Your sister, Michelle, and your own mother, my mother, they were all in on it. They're both very, very concerned about your mental state. David sneered. They agree I should be the one to manage your little windfall. So you're going to sign those papers, Jessica. You're going to sign over power of attorney to me. Be smart for once in your pathetic life. I just stared at him, paralyzed. This was it. This was how it ended. Locked away, declared crazy by my own mother. While he and his new wife drank champagne at Per Se, Laura said a long, impassioned sound. She tapped her expensive watch. David, enough, just get her signature. If she refuses, we'll proceed with the competency hearing on Monday. I've already filed the emergency motion. You heard the lady. David snapped, tossing a pen onto my blanket. Sign. Laura, still ignoring me, took the sheath of papers from him. Let me just mark the signature lines. She muttered, clearly annoyed. You'd be amazed how stupid people can be. She clicked a slim gold pen and scanned the top page. Pétition for dissolution. Mental instability. Emergency petition for conservatorship. Perfect. She flipped to the last page. All she has to do is sign here, and the power of attorney right here. She looked up, her eyes finally landing on me, but not me. Just the space I occupied. Where is her name chart? I need to verify the spelling for the notary. David, trying to be helpful, pointed a finger at the plastic bracelet on my wrist. It's right there. Baby, on her arm. They put it on her when she came in. Laura leaned in. It was the first time she had actually looked at me. Her sharp, analytical eyes narrowed, focusing on the small white band. I watched her read the name printed in black block letters. Jessica Miller. I saw her blink. Just a quick, sharp blink. Then her eyes darted to the white chart hanging at the foot of my bed. Her gaze moved from my name to the line just below it. Patient file, Grayson Trust. Laura Price did not move. She just stopped. She froze. Her entire body went rigid. Her hand still holding that gold pen, hovering over the divorce papers. Her face, which had been so full of arrogant, bored confidence, just collapsed. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her flawless makeup looking like a mask on a corpse. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, were locked on the chart. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. David, who had been admiring his reflection in the dark hospital window, finally noticed the silence. Laura, he said, his voice still cheerful. Baby, what's wrong? You find a mistake? She didn't answer. Laura, he sounded annoyed now. He stepped closer and touched her arm. Hey, what is it? Laura made a small sound in her throat. A tiny, strangled gasp. She took one slow, stiff step backward, away from the bed, away from me. Then another, her hand, the one holding the pen, started to shake. The other hand, the one holding her sleek, expensive briefcase, went limp. The briefcase slipped from her fingers. It hit the linoleum floor with a heavy, sickening thud. Papers scattered. A compact went skittering under the bed. She didn't even notice. She just stared at me, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated, career-ending horror. She raised one trembling, manicured finger, pointing it directly at my face. Oh, my God. It wasn't a small sound. It was a raw, terrified scream that echoed out of the room and down the hospital corridor. It was the sound of a person who had just seen a ghost. David jumped back, genuinely startled. What is it, Jesus? Laura, you scared me. Is she contagious? What's wrong with her? Laura whipped her head around to face him. Her eyes were blazing, wild, with a panic I had never seen in anyone. She shrieked, her voice cracking. You son of a, you lying, stupid son of a. She turned back to me, her whole body shaking. She looked frantic, desperate, as if I was the one with all the power. You are Jessica Miller, she stammered, pointing at the chart. Then at my face, the Grayson Trust, the $35 million file. She took a gasping breath, her eyes locked on mine, and her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. You are my client. The silence in the room was absolute. It was deafening. The only sound was the beep, beep, beep of my heart monitor, which was suddenly, frantically racing. David just stared at her, his mouth open, his face a mask of total idiotic confusion. Client, he stammered, forcing a nervous laugh. Baby, what are you talking about? She's a broke nobody. She's a social worker. Laura's terror, the raw fear that had made her drop her briefcase, was gone. It didn't fade. It crystallized. It hardened. It sharpened. It turned into the righteous, white-hot, self-preserving fury of a cornered predator. The shark Mr. Hayes had promised was suddenly, terrifyingly here. Broke, she hissed, her voice low and shaking with a rage so deep it was almost silent. She took a step toward him. I am Laura Price, she said, her voice a low, precise, and lethal instrument. I am a senior partner at Hayes & Associates. My firm is the legal executive of the Grayson Trust. And you, she shrieked, her voice finally cracking. You hired me to steal money from my own client. David flinched. Laura, baby, I can explain. You didn't come to me as a con man. She was roaring now, pacing the small room like a caged tiger. You came to me as a victim, a covert narcissist. You cried in my office, you held my hand, and you told me your unstable wife had abandoned you and was draining your joint accounts. You played the part of the poor, supportive husband who needed protection. And you used me. She pointed a shaking finger at him, and that $50,000 retainer you paid me, she laughed. A terrifying, humorless sound. That shiny new Amex card you've been flashing, the one you used to buy me that dinner at Per Se, the one you used for that Rolex, it's her card. You idiot, you paid me to steal from my client using my client's own stolen money. David was a statue, pale, sweating. He had nothing. And that's when I found my voice. I used the railing of the hospital bed, and with a gasp of pain that I refused to let become a sound of weakness, I pulled myself into a sitting position. They both turned to look at me. David looked like a cornered animal. Laura looked at me, her face still furious, but now waiting. My voice, when I spoke, was not the weak whisper of a victim. It was low, it was clear, and it was filled with ice. He didn't just pay you with my card. Counselor Laura's eyes, blazing with fury, locked onto mine. He tried to kill me. That was it. David's face, which had been pale with panic, turned a deep, blotchy red. He saw it all. His money, his new life, his freedom, all gone. He was trapped, and like any trapped animal, he turned vicious. You shut up, he bellowed. He didn't lung at Laura. He lunged at me. His hands were out. Clawed, aimed for my throat. I didn't even have time to scream. But Laura did the security. A door didn't just open, it exploded inward, slamming against the wall so hard the frame shook. It wasn't hospital staff. It was two massive men in black polo shirts. The men the firm had stationed outside my door. David, in his mid-lunge, his fingers inches from my face, didn't stand a chance. The first guard hit him low, a solid blur of muscle driving his shoulder into David's stomach, lifting him off his feet and slamming him sideways to the floor. The second guard was on him instantly, a knee pinning his back, his arm wrenched behind him with a sickening pop. David was screaming, bucking, his expensive new suit ripping at the shoulder seam. It was useless. He was pinned, his face pressed against the dirty linoleum floor. He was finished, and he knew it. He suddenly went rigid. He started to laugh. A high-pitched, hysterical, broken sound. "You think you've won," he cackled. His voice muffled by the floor. "You think I'm the smart one. You think I did this alone." He twisted his head, his eyes, wild and hateful, finding mine. This whole thing, the brakes, the mechanic, that was Steven's idea. My blood ran cold. And your mother, your precious Karen, he screamed, his voice cracking with spite. She's the one who gave him the mechanic's name. She knew the guy who'd do it cheap. You'll never win. You'll never win. The fallout was total. Laura Price, now my avenging angel, systematically dismantled them. David, facing overwhelming evidence, was sentenced to 20 years. Stephen, my brother-in-law and the mastermind of the brake tampering plot, received 25. My sister, Michelle, for her role in the conspiracy, got 10. And my mother, Karen, whose testimony and the mechanic's confession proved her active role, was sentenced to 5 years. I'm no longer in that hospital room. I'm in a new apartment, one filled with light. I open my laptop. The Grayson Trust balance is on the screen. I open a new blank document and type the title, The Grayson Foundation for Victims of Financial and Domestic Abuse. My family called me a loser because I chose to help people They didn't realize that was my strength all along. Have you ever had to choose between your family and your own survival? Share your story below. You are not alone.